I never thought my life would collapse on an ordinary Thursday. My name is Park Junho. I'm 32 years old, and I work as a regular office employee at an electronics import company in Seoul. My wife, Choi Yuna, is the CEO of a successful tech startup. She's brilliant, ambitious, and beautiful. I always felt lucky to be with her. On that Thursday, I was supposed to stay late at work, but a client meeting was unexpectedly canceled. I decided to surprise Yuna and pick up her favorite food from that restaurant in Gangnam she loves. I called her, the line was busy. I sent a message. Coming home early, bringing your favorite samgyeopsal. The reply came within a minute. I'm home, tired. Just want to rest. Love you. I smiled and drove home, but as I approached our house in the Seongsu district, I saw her. Yuna was leaving the building, not in home clothes, but in an elegant black dress she wears to important meetings. Next to her walked a man. I recognized him immediately. Park Min-seok, an investor in her company. He opened the door of his black BMW for her, placed his hand on her lower back. Too familiar. She laughed at something he said, and they drove away. I sat in my car, holding the bag of cooling food, unable to move. My heart was beating so loudly I could hear the pulse in my ears. Maybe it was a business meeting. But why did she lie? Why did she say she was home? I went up to our apartment. Empty, quiet. Her bag, which she always takes to work, lay on the couch, so she specifically came home, changed, and went out with him. This wasn't a spontaneous meeting. I opened her laptop. I knew the password. We never hid anything from each other. Or so I thought. In her email, I found correspondence with Min-seok. Messages from the past 3 months. Yesterday was beautiful. I can't stop thinking about you. I'm sorry you're stuck in this marriage. You deserve more. I booked a room at that hotel in Busan. Tell your husband you have a business trip. I couldn't read further. 3 months. She'd been cheating on me for 3 months. And I, like an idiot, was making plans for our future, dreaming of children, saving money for a bigger house. The next 2 days, I lived as if in a fog. Went to work, smiled at colleagues, pretended everything was fine. Yuna came home late that night around midnight. Said there were problems with investors. Had to arrange an unplanned meeting. I nodded, asked how it went. She told me, looking into my eyes, without blinking. I realized she was an excellent liar. I started gathering evidence. Don't know why. Maybe to convince myself it was real. Checked our bank accounts. Turned out she'd opened a separate credit card 2 months ago. Expenses, restaurants I'd never seen, hotels, luxury lingerie stores. I photographed all the statements, installed a tracking app on her phone. Not proud of it, but I needed the truth. On Friday evening, she said she was going to dinner with potential clients. I tracked her location. She was at Min-seok's apartment in Gangnam. I sat in our living room, looked at the dot on the map, and understood that my wife was sleeping with another man at that very moment. Maybe she was laughing at something he said. Maybe she was touching him the way she used to touch me. On Saturday morning, she came home, fresh and glowing, kissed me on the cheek. "Good morning, honey." Her voice light as if nothing had happened. "How was the meeting?" I asked. "Great. I think they'll sign the contract." She smiled, started making coffee. I watched her back and thought, who is this woman? Did I ever know her? Or was she always like this, and I just didn't see it? On Sunday, I hired a private detective. I needed photos, videos, something irrefutable. The detective, a man about 50 with a tired face, looked at me with sympathy. "How long have you been married?" 5 years. Children? No. She always said it wasn't the right time yet. Now I understood why. The detective worked quickly. Within a week, I had a full folder. Photos of Yuna and Min-seok entering a hotel, videos of them kissing in his car, records of their entry into his apartment at different times. Everything was documented with dates and times. I sat in a small cafe near my office, flipped through these materials, and felt a strange emptiness. Not anger, not pain, just a vacuum where something alive used to be. A colleague, Kim Tae-jin, noticed my condition. "Junho, are you okay? You've looked terrible these past days." I couldn't lie to him, told him everything. He listened silently, then put his hand on my shoulder. "What are you going to do?" Good question. What was I going to do? I could confront her, make a scene, demand a divorce, could send these photos to her parents, who were always against our marriage. Her mother thought I wasn't good enough for their daughter. The irony was that now I thought the same, but something in me changed during that week. I no longer felt like a victim. I felt free. These 5 years I'd lived in her shadow, been the husband of the successful CEO, the person always in the background. At her company's corporate events, I was introduced almost apologetically. "This is my husband. He works at an import company." People nodded, smiled politely, and quickly switched to conversations with her. I decided not to make a drama. I would just leave. That night, when Yuna was at another client meeting, I started packing my things. Not much, just the essentials. Clothes, documents, laptop, a few books. Left my wedding ring on her vanity, along with a short letter. "Yuna, I know about Min Seok. I've known for 3 weeks. I won't make a scene. I'm leaving you free. It's what you clearly want. All divorce documents will be sent to you by my lawyer next week. I don't want anything from you. Not the apartment, not the money. Just sign the papers. I hope he makes you happy. Junho." In the morning, I woke up in a cheap motel near Incheon Airport. My flight to Los Angeles was leaving at noon. I'd bought a one-way ticket 2 days ago. I had a visa. Once upon a time, Yuna and I planned to travel around America, but she was always too busy. The phone started exploding with calls around 8 in the morning. Yuna. 15 missed calls. Then, messages. "Junho, where are you? What does this letter mean? We can talk, please. It's not what you think. Junho, answer me." I turned off the phone. I didn't need her explanations. There was nothing she could say to change my decision. At the airport, I felt strangely light, as if I'd dropped a huge burden I'd carried so long I'd forgotten what it was like to walk with a straight back. I bought coffee, sat by the window, and watched planes taking off and landing. My friend Tae-jin texted me, "Are you sure about this? America is a big step." I replied, "Never been more sure of anything." The truth was, I didn't know what I'd do in Los Angeles. I had some savings. About $10,000 I'd been saving secretly from Yuna. No job there, no acquaintances either. But I didn't care. Anything was better than staying in a place where every corner reminded me of betrayal. When the plane took off, I looked down at Seoul, the city where I was born and lived my entire life. Somewhere there, in one of those millions of apartments, my wife was probably panicking. Somewhere there was my job, my parents, everything familiar and safe, and I was flying into the unknown. And for the first time in a long time, I smiled. Los Angeles greeted me with heat and chaos. I arrived at LAX, walked out of the airport, and just stood there, overwhelmed. People rushed past, speaking dozens of languages, and I stood with one suitcase and a backpack, realizing I had no idea what to do next. First, I needed housing. I'd booked a hostel in Koreatown for 2 weeks, $20 a night, shared room for 8 people. The place was shabby, old bunk beds, smell of mildew, roommates who snored or talked on the phone at 3 in the morning, but it was all I could afford. I spent the first days just walking around the city. Los Angeles was huge, dusty, bright, palm trees, graffiti, homeless people on every corner, beautiful people in expensive cars. The contrast was stunning. In Seoul, everything was organized, clean, predictable. Here, chaos reigned. And strangely enough, I liked it. I started looking for work, sent resumes to dozens of companies, office positions, something related to international trade. My English was decent, but not good enough for corporate America. Got 2 rejections, then 5 more. After 2 weeks, it became obvious. With my qualifications and accent, I wouldn't get an office job. Money was melting fast. I switched to instant noodles and the cheapest food from Korean markets. Moved to an even cheaper hostel, $15 a night. My room now was just a mattress in a basement I shared with 5 other people. One evening, when I had less than $2,000 left, I sat on a park bench and thought, did I make a huge mistake? Maybe I should have stayed, forgiven Yuna, tried to save what we had? But then I remembered her face when she lied to me, remembered how she touched Min Seok, and I understood. No. Better to be poor and alone in a foreign country than rich and deceived at home. A month later, I got a job washing dishes in a Korean restaurant. They paid $10 an hour, cash, no questions about the visa. The work was hard. 10 hours on my feet, hands constantly in hot water and grease, the smell of food that soaked into clothes and skin. The owner, Mr. Park, was a tough man, but fair. If I worked well, he let me take food home. I worked 6 days a week. In my free time, I studied English, watched American TV shows without subtitles, read newspapers, talked to people at the hostel. Slowly, my English improved. At the hostel, I met Carlos, a Mexican my age. He worked construction and had been in America for 5 years. One evening, when we were smoking in the backyard, I started smoking after the divorce. He asked, "What brought you here, bro?" I told him my story. He listened, nodding. When I finished, he said, "You know what? You did the right thing. Self-respect is more important than comfort. Lots of people stay in shitty relationships because they're afraid to start over. You're not like that. Respect." Those words meant more than he could have thought. Gradually, I started adapting. Learned the best places to eat cheap. Found a free library where I could spend time and use the internet. Discovered that Los Angeles had plenty of free events, concerts in parks, outdoor movie screenings, art exhibitions. After 3 months, I saved enough to rent a room, a real room, in an apartment I shared with 3 other people. It was in Koreatown. The apartment was old, but I had my own door I could close, my own space. It felt like luxury. I bought a used laptop for $150. Started writing. At first, just for myself, notes about my experience, what I felt, how I was adapting. Then I thought, what if other people could find this useful? I created a blog, called it New Start: One Man's Journey from Betrayal to Freedom. Wrote my story, without names, but honestly, about how my wife cheated on me, how I left, how I was surviving in a new country. I didn't expect anyone to read it, but after a week I had 50 views. After a month, 1,000. People were writing comments, sharing their stories, thanking me for honesty. I kept writing. In December, 5 months after my arrival in Los Angeles, I met Emma. It happened in a coffee shop on Vermont Avenue. I came there on my day off to work on the blog, ordered the cheapest coffee and sat by the window with my laptop. Half an hour later, the seat next to me was taken by a woman with a huge bag from which art supplies were sticking out. She was about 30, with dark curly hair, brown eyes, and a sprinkling of freckles on her nose. She took out a tablet and started drawing, completely immersed in her work. I wasn't planning to talk to her, but her coffee spilled right onto my table. Oh shit. She grabbed napkins, started wiping. "I'm so sorry, your laptop." Fortunately, the laptop survived. "It's okay," I said. My pronunciation was still a bit clumsy, and she noticed it. "You're not from here?" she asked, smiling. "From Korea," I've been here 5 months. Cool, I'm Emma. Emma Rodriguez. She extended her hand. Junho. Park Junho. We started talking. Emma was a freelance graphic designer, born in Los Angeles, grew up in a Mexican-American family. She was warm, laughing, open, the complete opposite of cold, calculating Yuna. She asked what I did. I told her about my restaurant work and the blog. Can I see? She asked. I showed her uncertainly. She read silently, her face becoming serious. When she finished, she looked at me with something like respect. This is really good, very honest, and your English is much better than you think. Really? Really? You know what you need? A better platform. You're publishing on Blogger, right? Switch to Medium, or create your own site. I can help with design if you want. I blinked. Why would you want to help me? You don't even know me. She shrugged. Because you seem like a good person who went through shit and is still trying. People like that are worth supporting. It was the first time since my arrival that someone offered me help without expecting anything in return. I felt a lump in my throat. Thank you, I said. That means a lot. She smiled. You're welcome. Let's exchange numbers. I'll send you some resources. We exchanged contacts. When I was leaving the coffee shop, I looked back. Emma waved at me, smiling, and something warm stirred in my chest for the first time in a very long time. Emma kept her word. A few days later, she sent me links to blogging platforms, SEO advice, even offered a basic design for a website. We started meeting in that same coffee shop. She worked on her projects, I wrote. Gradually, our meetings became regular. Once a week, then twice, then 3 times. We talked about everything, her work, my writing, life in Los Angeles, our families. She told me her parents immigrated from Mexico, that she grew up translating documents for them and dealing with the American system. In a way, you're going through the same thing, she said once, starting over in a place where you're nobody. It's hard, but it's also an opportunity to redefine who you are. Her words sank into my soul. She was right. In Korea, I was always Yuna's husband, the person in the shadow. Here I could be anyone. With her help, I moved the blog to my own site. She created a simple but elegant design. I started writing more often, not just about my divorce story, but about immigrant life, cultural differences, adaptation challenges. The audience started growing. After 2 months, I had 5,000 regular readers. People started writing me private messages, sharing their stories. Some offered advice. Others just thanked me for making them feel less alone. I understood that what I was doing mattered. At the restaurant, Mr. Park noticed changes in me. You've become different, he said once. More confident. That's good. But you won't wash dishes forever, right? I hope not, I answered honestly. He nodded. Good. When you find something better, leave. Don't hold on to this place out of loyalty. I'll survive. His words touched me. He was tough, but kind in his own way. Soon after that, I got my first commercial offer. A small company dealing with immigrant services wanted me to write a few articles for their blog. They paid $100 per article. It was little, but it was the first time someone paid me for writing. I accepted. Wrote 3 articles. They were satisfied. They recommended me to other clients. Gradually, I started getting more offers. By spring, almost a year after my arrival in America, I was earning as much from writing as from washing dishes. I quit the restaurant. Mr. Park shook my hand. I'm proud of you, kid. You'll do big things. By summer, my blog had turned into something bigger than I could have imagined. I had 20,000 subscribers. Articles were being reposted on social media. I was even mentioned in a couple of online publications about immigrant blogs. I started monetizing the site, advertising, sponsored posts, affiliate links. It wasn't huge income, but together with freelance writing, I was earning enough for the first time in my life not just to survive, but to live. I rented my own apartment, a studio in Silver Lake. Small, but mine. I bought decent furniture, a real bed, a work desk, hung a few posters on the wall. It was the first home I'd created myself. For myself. Emma helped me settle in. She came with plants. Every home needs some green, and helped arrange furniture. We celebrated by ordering pizza and drinking cheap wine on the floor because I didn't have a couch yet. "You've earned this," she said, raising her glass. "To new beginnings." "To new beginnings," I repeated. We clinked glasses, and our eyes met. Something changed in the air between us. I'd been feeling it for several weeks. The tension, the attraction, the way her hand touched mine when she passed me coffee, how she looked at me when she thought I wasn't noticing. But I didn't know if I was ready. It hadn't been a year since the divorce yet. Was Una still in my head? Sometimes, but less and less. I started taking speaking engagements, small immigrant community gatherings, podcasts, online webinars. I told my story, gave advice about starting over after betrayal, how to survive in a new country. People resonated with my message. One listener wrote to me, "Your story gave me courage to leave a toxic partner. Thank you for showing that it's possible to start over." I reread this message several times. Just a year ago, I was washing dishes in a restaurant basement, wondering if I'd made a huge mistake. And now I was changing people's lives. Emma became an integral part of my life. We saw each other almost every day, worked together in coffee shops, watched movies, explored the city. She showed me the Los Angeles tourists never see: hidden bookstores, small galleries, the best taco trucks. With her it was easy. No need to pretend, no need to be someone I wasn't. She accepted me with all my baggage, my scars, my accent, my past. One evening we were walking in Griffith Park, watching the sunset over the city. She asked, "Do you ever regret it?" "Leaving?" I thought. "Sometimes I regret how it happened. The pain. But leaving? No. Never." "Do you miss her?" "I miss the person I thought she was, but that person never existed." Emma nodded. "I understand that. My last serious relationship ended 2 years ago. He cheated on me. But even after I found out, I clung on for another 6 months. Kept thinking maybe something would change. But people don't change unless they want to." "What made you finally leave?" I realized I loved the idea of the relationship more than the person himself. When I understood that, it became easy. We sat in silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon, painting the sky orange and pink. "Junho," she turned to me, "can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you ready to let someone into your life again? Or is it still too early?" My pulse quickened. I knew where this was leading, and instead of fear, I felt hope. "I thought I needed more time," I said slowly. "But then I met you and I don't know. You made me feel like it's possible to start over. Not just in life, but in love." She smiled, softly, with something vulnerable in her eyes. "Good. Because I've been thinking about you. A lot." "Me too," I admitted. She took my hand. Her fingers intertwined with mine, warm and real. We sat there, holding hands, watching as the city below began to glow in the twilight. For the first time since the divorce, I felt ready to try again. Not because I'd forgotten the pain, but because I'd learned to live with it. And because Emma wasn't Una. She was someone completely different. Someone real. I asked Emma on a real date. Not just meet for coffee, but a real date. Reserved a table at a small Italian restaurant in Santa Monica, a place she'd mentioned wanting to try. I was nervous like a teenager. Changed my shirt 3 times, worried about looking too formal or too casual. Finally settled on a simple blue shirt and dark jeans. When I arrived to pick her up, My heart stopped. She was in a simple black dress, hair down, light makeup. Beautiful. Not in the cold, unapproachable manner of Yuna, but in a warm, alive, magnetic way. "You look wonderful," I said. She laughed. "You look pretty good yourself. Ready?" Dinner was perfect. We talked and laughed, shared childhood stories, argued about movies and music. It was easy, natural. No awkwardness, no pretense. After dinner, we walked on the beach. The moon hung over the ocean. Waves crashed on the shore. I took off my shoes, rolled up my jeans, and we walked along the water's edge. "Thank you for tonight," she said. "I haven't been on a real date in a very long time." "Me neither," I admitted. "You know, I forgot what it's like to be with someone who really sees you." "What do you mean?" "Yuna never really saw me. I was an accessory in her life. Husband, a check mark on her success checklist. But with you, I feel like you know me. The real me." She stopped, turned to face me. "Because you show me the real you. You're honest, Junho. That's rare." We stood there, on the sand, the ocean behind her, wind playing with her hair, and I kissed her. It was a soft, careful kiss. She responded, her hands sliding onto my shoulders. When we broke the kiss, she smiled. "I was waiting for that," she admitted. "Me too. I just wasn't sure I was ready. And now? Now I'm sure." We spent another hour on the beach, sitting on the sand, wrapped in her shawl, watching the stars, and talking about the future. For the first time in a year and a half, I was thinking about the future not with fear, but with anticipation. By fall, my blog had turned 1 year old and transformed into a real business. I had 50,000 subscribers. I was publishing articles on major platforms, receiving invitations to speak. Income was stable. I was earning about $6,000 a month, more than I'd ever earned in Korea. I launched an online course, Starting Over After Betrayal. It was an 8-week program with video lessons, workbooks, and group sessions. I doubted anyone would pay for it, but the first enrollment filled in 3 days. 50 people at $299 each. Emma helped me with marketing and design. We became partners not just in personal life, but in work. She joined me as creative director. We shared income. Together we created more courses. Thriving as an immigrant, rebuilding confidence, financial independence after divorce. Each found its audience. By the end of the year, our joint income reached $15,000 a month. We moved together into a 2-bedroom apartment in Silver Lake. Turned one room into an office where we worked side by side. In the morning, we cooked breakfast together, worked, took breaks to walk or have lunch. In the evening, we cooked dinner, watched shows, talked about plans. This was a life I never had with Yuna. Partnership, equality, mutual respect. Emma once said, "You know what I like about us? We both don't need each other to be whole. We're both whole on our own. But together, we're just better." She was right. I wasn't looking for someone to save me or complete me. I was whole myself. But being with her made life brighter, richer, fuller of meaning. My blog kept growing. I started getting book deal offers. Literary agents were writing, offering to represent me. It was overwhelming, but Emma helped me evaluate offers, make decisions. I signed a contract for a book with a small but prestigious publisher. The advance was modest, $10,000, but it was validation. My story deserved to be told. I started working on the manuscript. Writing a book was harder than blog posts. It required depth, structure, vulnerability on a new level. But I was ready. 2 years had passed since I left Korea. 2 years during which I hadn't heard a word from Yuna. The divorce was processed in absentia. She signed the papers, I signed. Everything was finished in 3 months. I sometimes thought about her, wondered how she was living, if she married Min Seok, if she was happy. But these were fleeting thoughts without pain, without anger, just curiosity about a person who was once part of my life. And then one day in November, my phone rang, a Korean number. I didn't recognize it, but something made me answer. Hello? Junho? The voice was familiar, though I hadn't heard it in 2 years. Yuna. My heart skipped a beat, but not from love, from shock. Yuna, why are you calling? I need to talk to you. Please don't hang up. I almost did, but curiosity won. What do you want? I'm in Los Angeles. Can I see you, please? It's important. I felt Emma looking at me from the other end of the room. I covered the phone. It's my ex-wife. She's in town, wants to meet. Emma's face was inscrutable. Do you want to see her? I don't know. Maybe I should? Close that chapter for good? Emma nodded. Do what you need to. I trust you. I returned to the phone. Okay. Where and when? We agreed to meet the next day in a cafe in Koreatown. I chose a public place intentionally. When I arrived, she was already there. Yuna looked different. Still beautiful but tired. Thin. Too thin. Dark circles under her eyes I'd never seen before. Her clothes were expensive, but she looked lost in them. She stood when I approached. Junho, thank you for coming. I sat without hugging her, without touching. Why are you here, Yuna? Yuna slowly sank into the chair, her hands trembling as she wrapped them around her coffee cup. I waited. Everything fell apart, she began finally. Her voice was quiet, broken. After you left. Everything just collapsed. I said nothing. I let her speak. Min-seok, she laughed bitterly. He dumped me after 2 months. Said I was interesting to him while I was married. But when you left, I became too available. He found someone else. Another married woman, probably. I should have felt satisfaction, but I only felt emptiness. The company collapsed too, she continued. Min-seok pulled his investments. Other investors followed suit. We declared bankruptcy 6 months after you left. I lost everything. I'm sorry to hear that, I said. And surprisingly, I meant it. Not because I still loved her, but because I wasn't a cruel person. My parents turned away from me. Her voice trembled. When they found out about the affair, the divorce, the bankruptcy, my father said I disgraced the family. They don't talk to me anymore. Tears started flowing down her cheeks. This was the first time I'd seen her cry. In all our time of marriage, she never showed weakness. Junho, I made the biggest mistake of my life. I know that now. You were the only good thing I had, and I threw it away. I thought I deserved more, someone more at my level. But I was wrong. You were everything. She reached across the table, tried to grab my hand. I pulled away. Please, she sobbed. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I love you. I always loved you. I was stupid and selfish. I'm so sorry. Can we try again? Please? I looked at her, at the woman who broke my heart, who made me flee to the other side of the world. The woman I once loved so much I would have given everything, and I felt nothing. Yuna, I said calmly, 2 years ago, if you'd come to me, apologized, I might have forgiven you. Maybe even taken you back. But not now. Please? No, listen to me. What you did destroyed me. I came to this country with no one and nothing. I slept in hostels, washed dishes, ate instant noodles every day because that's all I could afford. I rebuilt myself from scratch, and you know what? It was the best thing that ever happened to me. Her face crumbled. I'm free, Yuna. For the first time in my life, I'm truly free. I'm not living in someone's shadow. I'm doing work that matters. I'm with a person who respects me, who sees me. You want to come back to me not because you love me, but because you have nothing left. I'm not your spare tire." She was sobbing uncontrollably. "Junho, please. You need help, Yuna. Professional help. You're not in a good place. But I can't be the one who saves you. You made your choice 2 years ago, and I made mine. We both have to live with the consequences." I stood up. She looked at me, her face wet with tears, full of despair. "I wish you all the best," I said sincerely. "I hope you find your way, find happiness, but it won't be with me." I walked out of the cafe and didn't look back. When I got home, Emma was in the kitchen, cooking dinner. She turned when I entered, question in her eyes. I hugged her, tight, buried my face in her hair. "I love you," I said. "Thank you for being patient with me." She hugged me back. "How did it go?" She wanted to come back. I said no. "How do you feel?" I thought about it. Free. Finally truly free. She smiled, kissed me. "Good, because I wasn't going to let you go." That night we talked about the future, what we wanted, where we were going. Emma wanted to expand our business, create more courses, maybe hire a small team. I wanted to finish the book, maybe start a podcast. We dreamed about travel, Europe, Asia, South America, about buying a house someday, with a garden and offices for each of us, maybe about children, but not rushing. Months passed. My book was finished and accepted by the publisher. Release was planned for spring. The blog kept growing. By 2 years, I had 150,000 subscribers. Our joint income reached $25,000 a month. I returned to Korea once to visit my parents. They were happy to see me, proud of what I'd achieved. I spent a week in Seoul, walked the familiar streets, but now I felt like a tourist in the city where I grew up. Korea was no longer my home. My home was in Los Angeles, with Emma. I accidentally ran into Taejin, my old colleague. We had coffee, and he told me he'd heard about Yuna. She'd moved to Busan, was working at a small consulting firm, starting over from scratch. "Do you ever think about her?" he asked. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but without pain, just as part of my past." "Did you forgive her?" I let go. It's not the same as forgiveness, but it's enough for me. When I returned to Los Angeles, Emma met me at the airport. I saw her in the crowd and my heart beat faster. She was in jeans and a simple t-shirt, hair in a messy bun, no makeup. And she was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. I dropped my bag and hugged her. "I missed you." "Me too. Welcome home." Home. Yes, that was it. 3 years after my departure from Korea, my book was published. Starting Over: One Man's Journey from Betrayal to Freedom in America. The publisher organized a small tour, several cities, bookstores, interviews. Emma went with me. We turned it into a mini trip, visited new cities, tried local food, explored. The book sold better than anyone expected. 10,000 copies in the first month, 50,000 in 3 months. It made several small publishers' bestseller lists. I was invited on talk shows, podcasts, radio. My story resonated with people, not just about betrayal, but about what it means to start over when everything collapses. I started getting messages from around the world. People in Europe, Asia, South America were reading the book, writing to me, telling how it changed their lives. One message particularly stuck with me. From a woman in Korea: "Your story gave me courage to leave my husband who was cheating on me for years. I was afraid to start over at 45, but you showed me it's possible. Thank you." I cried when I read it. Financial success came too. Income from the book, from courses, from speaking. We were earning more than I could have imagined. Not millions, but more than enough to be comfortable. We bought a house in Pasadena, small, with a garden and 2 offices, a place where we could build our life. On the anniversary of my arrival in America, Emma gave me a photograph. That very park bench where I sat 3 years ago thinking I'd made a huge mistake. "Remember?" she asked. "Of course. I thought then that my life was over. And now? Now I know it was just beginning." She took my hand. "Junho, I want to ask you something." My heart beat faster. "Yes?" She took out a small box from her pocket, opened it. Inside was a simple silver ring. "Emma, I know it's usually the guy who asks, but I don't care about traditions. Will you marry me?" I laughed, tears running down my cheeks. "Yes." 1,000 times, yes. She put the ring on my finger. We hugged, kissed, laughed, and cried at the same time. "I never thought I'd get married again," I said. "After Yuna, I thought marriage was a mistake." Marriage wasn't the mistake. The person was the mistake. With me, it'll be different. And I knew she was right. A few months later, we got married. A small ceremony in our garden. Only close friends. Carlos was there, my friend from the hostel, with whom I was still close. Taejin flew in from Korea. Emma's parents cried with happiness. My parents came via video call, smiling proudly. It wasn't a big ceremony like my wedding with Yuna. It was modest, intimate, real, and it was perfect. Standing there, holding Emma's hands, saying our vows, I thought about the journey that brought me here, about the pain, betrayal, struggle, about the nights when I didn't know how I'd survive the next day, about the slow climb, each step earned. I thought about Yuna, not with anger or pain, but with gratitude, because her betrayal, however painful it was then, freed me. It forced me to become the person I was meant to be. It led me to this moment, to this woman, to this life. "I now pronounce you husband and wife," said our friend conducting the ceremony. I kissed Emma under applause and joyful shouts. When we broke the kiss, I whispered in her ear, "Thank you for showing me what real love is." She smiled, tears of joy on her cheeks. "Thank you for letting me love you." This wasn't a fairy tale ending. This was a new beginning, and it was more than I could ever have hoped for. That night, lying in bed next to my wife, my true partner, I thought about Yuna one last time. I hoped she found her way, that she learned from her mistakes, that she became a better person. But mostly I thought about the future, about the life Emma and I were building, about the books I'd write, the people we'd help, the children we might have someday. I thought about that guy 3 years ago, broken, lonely, afraid, sitting in the airport with one suitcase and a one-way ticket. I wanted to go back and tell him, "It will be hard, harder than you can imagine, but it will also be amazing. You'll find yourself, you'll find your purpose, and you'll find love, real love." But I didn't need to tell him, because he already found the courage to get on that plane, and that was all that was needed. Everything else just followed.